interesting place and time in marketing. And I've believed this for a long time now. I've believed that we are storytelling companies and that we can't avoid it. You may be a storytelling company that you're satisfied with and you believe the stories are great. And maybe you're thinking, I work for a company where the stories aren't that great. Either way, you are a storytelling organization. Now, you may not be happy with where you're at in that evolution, and there's still room to get to a place where you want to be, but every organization is a storytelling organization, and we have to create a storytelling culture. And there's a couple things that get in the way, in my experience working. I came out of corporate America. A lot of my clients are corporate, and what I find is that there's a couple of things getting in the way of really, I think, living up to this level of storytelling culture. And the first thing that I think gets in the way is this belief that stories have to come top down, and stories don't come top down. And I think a lot of us know that in marketing. Sometimes we forget it. Marketing stories don't come from marketing. Marketing's job is to create sales enablement, to facilitate sales, but to find the stories wherever they live. And marketing has to forget this idea that they come from marketing. They don't. The best stories don't even come from the C-suite. The best stories come from the people on the front lines. They come from customer service. They come from sales. They come from your product designers. Your product designers have amazing stories. And part of what marketing needs to do is get out of the way and make sure that they're finding these stories wherever they live. It doesn't matter where a story lives. The point is if it's a great story in a company, let's find that. Make sure if it needs to be tweaked a little bit, it's tweaked, and then get that story socialized throughout the organization and then outside the organization. IBM's done a great job. I think Zappos does a killer job at this kind of stuff. And the more we can get out of the way, the better off we are. And Scott Monty, who is a friend, full disclosure, he's a friend and colleague. He did an amazing job when he was at Ford because he got out of the way. And one of the things they did at Ford was he started letting product designers talk to consumers. Why not? That's how it should be. And one of the stories I remember, which was such a great story, is there was a product designer, a woman who she designed the foot pad, the foot little latch for busy moms and dads who would be carrying groceries and maybe one hand's holding a kid and they don't have any spare hands, right? They don't have any hands that can open up the latch. So they used a foot pedal, designed a foot pedal to get that latch up. But it was a really lovely story hearing a mom describe her daily routine and the empathy of other working moms. And wouldn't it be great to have a foot pedal? Well, she designed one and it was a very popular feature. And hearing the backstory of how she kind of came up with that idea as an empathetic mom and also a product designer. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing. So the stories live everywhere. And the best thing that an executive can do is get out of the way and make sure everybody knows that stories live everywhere. The second thing I think that gets in the way of building storytelling culture is this notion that storytelling has to be put through this marketing grinder and over-processed. It doesn't. I think the best stories are kind of raw. Okay, great. They can meet some basic brand guidelines, but they don't have to be over-processed. They have to make sure that they represent the brand. I think marketing goes too far sometimes. And I think consumers, we're at a deficit of trust. We're at a deficit of trust because the stories get so squeezed and because this happened, then the guy got the car and he got the beautiful girl. And it's like, just stop. Just like, okay, he got a great car and maybe he had some fun with the car. But let's have commensurate real stories. And I think marketing has gone too far. And it backfires. It has a backsplash because there is no perfection. And I think real stories that are honest and proportional and believable and credible are sexy. They're sexy. Truth is the new sexy. Who knew? I think people just are sick of the over-processed and over-promised and the over-branded stuff. I think the third thing that happens is we forget to tell everybody that they are responsible for the story. It's not the C-suite's job to be the storyteller. It's everybody's job. Everybody in the company has to know these great stories that live everywhere. At Zappos, they socialize these great stories so that all the employees know what's happening at customer service about the 10-hour phone call that Stephen Weinstein made, with non-continuous, but that's celebrated because it's social proof of Zappos' commitment to customer service. But everybody knows that story. And so everybody, who's the guardian and the champion of the company story? Everybody is. And so you have to make a culture that says, look, stories live everywhere. Let's be on the lookout no matter where it comes from, and encourage people to tell those stories. Give people a place to take their stories. And if marketing sometimes thinks, well, we're the keeper of the story, they're not. They're the ones who help that story maybe take shape, but they got to get out of the way. And they got to let the best storytellers in the organization tell the story. And that brings me to the next point, which is let the best storytellers speak directly to the audience. Marketing doesn't even have to be involved sometimes, and that's a shock. So I was a senior director of marketing at a company, and my job was to find these stories. We had a guy in our organization who was brilliant. He had like all these patents and a PhD in material science, and I used to tease him. I used to call him the Neil deGrasse Tyson of semiconductors, because he was this big kid who could explain really heady, complex subject very simply. And that's how you know somebody's really brilliant, is he could take any complex thing and break it down in a way that made you understand why it was important, why it mattered to the future of technology. And I thought, what a brilliant storyteller. Plus he was fun, like a big kid. And my boss, who at the time was the VP of marketing, thought he should be the one telling the stories because he was in marketing. Well, I fought that battle. And the CEO said, Kathy's right. And it was not an easy battle to win, but the reason it was important to go there is because he could tell the story so simply to the media, to the press, in a way that they could get it. He could tell the story to other PhDs. He could tell the story to people like me who came out of marketing communications. He just had a way with words, and he could take all that stuff and make it fun and playful. And he got so excited and animated. Now, why wouldn't you let the best storytellers in the organization tell that story directly? Why do you think it has to be marketing? And I think that's such a myth. And we've come out of marketing, we've come to expect that it has to be marketing. I don't think so. If marketing can't do the job adequately and there's a better storyteller, and this man knew the technology, who better than a guy who has all these patents? Let that guy tell the story. And I know it's a little bit, kind of it's just a little bit of a weird thing, but you got to let that person tell the story. So let those people go forward. And those are some points I just want to kind of leave with you today about why this kind of stuff matters. I hope it didn't die again, Valentina. I don't know. I'm going to take a look at it. It might be my connection. It might be my connection.